The Chernobyl disaster happened on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is April 26, 2023. It is the 116th day of the year. You got 249 days left in 2023. It is the 17th Wednesday in the 17th week and the 38th day of spring. You got 56 days until summer. And I'm about to do some traveling for 2 weeks, so we're going to have a limited schedule on this channel. That being said, today is National Static Cling Day. Yes, it gets its own day, and it's on April 26th. This day is set aside to recognize the phenomenon of static cling, its effects, and its control. I always have a bottle of that static cling stuff. I hate static cling on my clothes. I can't stand it. And then when I used to not shave my head, I'd put a sweatshirt on, and I have that hair that's like, it's kind of fine type hair, so it would just totally fly away, and it was out of control. But yes, National Static Cling Day is today. All right, let's see what else April 26th has given us. 1920, ice hockey makes its Olympic debut at the Antwerp Games, with center Frank Fredriksson scoring 7 goals in Canada's 12-1 drubbing of Sweden in the gold medal match. That is a drubbing. 1954, the first clinical trials of Jonas Salk's polio vaccine begins in Fairfax County, Virginia. 1962, NASA's Ranger 4 spacecraft crashes into the moon. 1986, the Chernobyl disaster occurs in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. The Chernobyl disaster was a nuclear accident that occurred on April 26, 1986, at the number 4 reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the north of the Ukraine. It is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history, both in cost and casualties. This was really bad. The nearby city had to be evacuated, the entire city, in just a few hours. The disaster was caused by a combination of factors, including flawed reactor design, human error, and inadequate safety procedures. During a safety test, the operator of the reactor disabled several safety systems. This allowed the reactor to overheat and eventually explode, releasing a large amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The radioactive cloud from the Chernobyl disaster spread over much of Europe, contaminating land and water. The most immediate impact of the disaster was on the people who lived near the plant. Many of them were evacuated from their homes and exposed to high level of radiation. As a result, thousands of people developed acute radiation syndrome and hundreds died. The long-term effects of the Chernobyl disaster are still being studied. It is estimated that the disaster could eventually have caused 4,000 additional cancer deaths. The Chernobyl disaster was a major turning point in the history of nuclear power. It led to widespread public distrust of nuclear energy and forced governments to take a closer look at the safety of nuclear power plants. The disaster also had a significant impact on the Soviet Union. It was a major blow to the Soviet government's credibility and contributed to the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. That was just part of it. I think the collapse of it was the Afghanistan war. They poured too many lives and too much money into a unwinnable war. The Chernobyl disaster is a reminder of the dangers of nuclear power, and it's a tragedy that should never be forgotten. Movies released on April 26, 1985, Just One of the Guys. Okay, so this is a teen comedy from my high school years. It's a teen comedy about a girl who loses her high school's writing competition. To prove her point that the results were gender biased, she moves to another school and poses as a boy. Then she has a best friend that's a boy, and then she falls in love with the best friend who thinks she's a boy, and it's a really, really cute movie. The film is a modern, loose adaptation of Shakespeare's classic comedy, Twelfth Night. Entertainment Weekly named the movie on their 50 best high school movie list. Okay, so this is a great movie, even though it's like one of these high school movies from the 80s. The woman, or girl at the time, that played Terry Griffith, the lead character, her name's Joyce Heiser. She was amazing in this movie. Even when I watched the movie years later, the acting was incredible, especially on her part. William Zabaka was in this movie, who, if you don't know who he is, he's Johnny from the Karate Kid. Sherilyn Fenn was in there, and another girl named Toni Hudson. All in all, this movie's definitely worth it. I would watch it if you get a chance. You know, as I was looking at this, Joyce Heiser, she really didn't do much after this. I mean, this was definitely her biggest role, I think. She's done a lot of weird TV shows, The Division, Pacific Blue for one episode, Courthouse for one episode, Murder, She Wrote for one episode, The Marshal for one episode, Viper for one episode, just tons of things like that. Melrose Place for one episode. She never really, didn't do much after this, and I thought she was a great actress. Born on April 26th, 1933, Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett hosted her own TV show, The Carol Burnett Show, on CBS. This woman has won every award except for an Academy Award. She's got a Tony, an Emmy, and a Golden Globe. She appeared in the early days in Twilight Zone, Get Smart. She worked as a hat check girl while living in a boarding house while trying to get her acting career going. Yeah, we all know who Carol Burnett is. But today, she turns 90. Died on April 26, 1973. We lost Irene Ryan. She played Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies and was also a notable success in film and on the Broadway stage. She was a very popular vaudeville actress, and she accompanied Bob Hope on USO tours, and she was billed as the gal that makes Bob Hope laugh. After the Beverly Hillbillies was canceled, she was offered a few different roles, and they were all based around the Granny character, and she turned them all down because she wanted to fulfill her dream of acting on Broadway. She was not a hillbilly. She was born into a military family in El Paso, Texas, but early on she moved to San Francisco. Spent most of her life in California and died in Santa Monica. She was a lifelong heavy smoker and stated in an interview that she smoked like a chimney on set, and her castmates had genuine concern about her health. On March 10, 1973, Ryan suffered an apparent stroke during a performance of Pippin. She flew home to California on doctor's orders and was hospitalized. She was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor, and she died on April 26, 1973, at the age of 70. Also, we lost Lucille Ball on this day, but we talked about her a couple years ago, so in case any of you want to bring that up. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.